Welcome to a new episode of Wedding Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, the team from Weddings a la Mode and Mode Events joins us with a special guest to chat about all things wedding related. Now pour yourself a drink and let's get to planning. Hey everyone, happy Wedding Wednesday. If you are not familiar, my name is Lindsay. I try to get on here every Wednesday. If it's not me, it's someone else from my team. I work with Mode Events. You can see I'm like trying to do down in the corner. But today we're going to be answering more questions that have been asked by you. And when I say you, either wedding vendors or couples that are either working with us currently or about to work with us or hoping to work with us. I'd love to introduce from our Vegas team, Sheridan. Woo! Hi.
Hey, Lindsay. Thanks for having me back.
Happy Wednesday. Yeah, of course. Can you hear me? Because are my earrings hitting my microphones?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, cool. Let me know. Sometimes when I've had Zoom calls and virtual calls, I hear people's jewelry on the microphone, and that's annoying. But how are you? How's it going?
Good. I heard you just got back.
Yeah, I went down to Florida, so thanks for pushing the time. Like an idiot, I booked a flight to land right in the middle of when we usually broadcast. And of course I couldn't change it. So, but you're on the West Coast, so at least it's not too late for you.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I have to check the quarantine list. I'm forgetting what states, because I live in Chicago. So due to COVID, I'm always forgetting what states we have to quarantine. But I am home now, thankfully.
Well, I know there's a couple of questions that we want. A couple of people love to hear and answer. So I would like to get to know you as a wedding planner. How did you actually get into the industry?
Yeah. How did I get into the industry? I actually worked in hospitality. I worked originally as a bartender, and I started in Ohio, and then I worked in New York for a while. And then I moved into management because I thought I wanted to own my own lounge. I just always envisioned that. When you live in New York, it's like everyone has a restaurant or a lounge or a bar. So I was managing a few places, and I loved it when we had private events versus like the day-to-day regulars coming into the bar. I just found more excitement through that. So I just cold called and cold emailed. I Googled the top 20 wedding planners in New York City, and David Duterre and all these celebrity planners were coming up. And I had no experience specifically in wedding planning, but I did get not an internship. It was paid. I was an assistant with a company, and it was run by two women. They're best friends. And I learned so much just from being on the job. And then when I moved here, I paired up with the company here. And how about you? How long have you been DJing? And then how did it specifically go into weddings?
If I did tell you that, it's going to definitely show my age. But I have been doing a lot of nightclubs here in Las Vegas. So I've always been that club DJ. But I've also on the side hosted photo booths. When times were slow, I was hosting a photo booth. So I was able to go to a lot of different weddings and private events and corporate events as well. And I was, as a DJ, I would always I don't want to say judgmental, but I always wanted to see what they had to offer and what they had, especially being on more experience with the club experience, making sure everybody's dancing. So I try to listening to these DJs on how they cater to themselves and how they emceed. So that's what really got me trying. Wow, some of these DJs are really great. I had more respect for some of these DJs, and also DJs who weren't as good. And I was able to differentiate which was a really good wedding DJ, how I felt. And of course, I gave a lot of credit to those DJs that were doing their thing and did a great job emceeing. And they knew already I was a DJ, so they were like, "Hey, whenever you feel like it, if you ever want to come and DJ for us, we definitely will welcome you." And it took a lot. It took more than a year or 2 years till I actually made a call back. Like, you know what? I think I'm ready to do this. Just to get my hands wet. It's not like I've done a couple of weddings, private weddings on my own from the couple of years, but really dive into it and got a little more training and getting more experience on the microphone and really get be enthusiastic with the couple and their guests. So that's how I really got into it. Other than that, it's been over almost 10 years now that I've been just doing weddings, and now clubs and lounges and bars have been now on kind of a back burner, because once I book that client, I'm locked in. So that's the reason why I slowly moved away from doing more clubs and bars.
Are you still working in nightclubs and bars, or are you strictly doing private events?
Lately, I've been doing strictly
now,
weddings. It's not that. It's because once I'm booked, the clubs and promoters would hit me up, and I'm stuck saying, "Hey, I can't do it." So they slow down calling me, knowing I'm always busy. But not only that, I really enjoy weddings. I love weddings. I love from the ceremony all the way till the reception, till the end of the evening. I don't know if I'm a little sappy or sensitive, but it's a lot of fun, and the guests really appreciate what you're doing. I've DJed for over thousands of people, and just getting appreciated even before I played my first record, just knowing that I've been guiding their guests and providing the information that need to get the events a lot smoother. It's the best thing ever. So that's the reason why
I know you love DJing weddings.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do miss the crowds DJing for the clubs. But at the same time, I could DJ for thousands of people and go home and nobody even says an attaboy or a thank you. And it's not all the time. While you're doing a wedding and I just finished a ceremony and I didn't really mix or do anything. They're like, "Great job. I appreciate you." I'm like, wow, I didn't even play one single record yet.
Do you get tips ever?
Oh, absolutely. But we're never there for the tips. Just them acknowledging it is the best. The best tip is like, "Here's a tip. Oh, I'll play your song, no problem. And they're like, "No, this is just for you for doing a great job."
That's and good. Those are the best. Couples always ask me, like right at the end of the planning process, they'll ask, who should they tip? How much should they tip? And I'm thankful that the knot.com has like this really great article that they've written. And I'm sure that there's like tons of similar articles, but I just like copy the link and send it to them. It's like breaks everything down and it gives ranges, because some people like tipping is required in the actual contract, usually catering or hair and makeup. But aside from that, tipping is, I said, it's up to your discretion.
Right.
As an extra thank you.
And I've noticed that too.
Because I'm never going to tell someone not to tip. It's like everyone.
The majority of the time, I've worked with a wedding planner, and I don't know if the wedding planner lets the couple know that tip a certain percentage to your vendors, but majority of the time I would be tipped just because I'm working with a wedding planner. Sometimes when there's a wedding planner, there isn't a wedding planner, then it's a 50-50. But regardless, I'm just doing my best for the couple. Just letting them know I am part of the event. I'm genuinely having a great time. And when they see that you're having a great time at their own party, at their own wedding reception, they really notice that. And that's when the night that's why I just love weddings.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like I don't want to be here. I actually genuinely want to be there.
Well, how did you get involved with Mode? Like, I know the story, but for people watching, how did Mode Las Vegas even form? Because Mode started in Chicago and now we have an office in Vegas. You want to tell that love story?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll do the short version. The quick version was one of the partners from Chicago came to Vegas. And of course, one of the clients were out here in Vegas and looking for DJs. And he came out here to DJ one of those stores, those from one of our
Oh,
clients.
like a retail store?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a retail
Like
store.
a grand opening.
And of course, equipment would be an issue. So if anybody knows my wife, DJ Chris Cut, she still does nightclubs and lounges, and he showed up and got introduced from a mutual friend, and that's when he mentioned that, hey, I'm going to be here like in a month or so. I need to rent some equipment. Who do you know, or who should I ask? And we had equipment, and that's pretty much what happened. We rented out equipment, and I think what happened was we ended up building a relationship, had conversations, and really enjoyed how organized the equipment was set up and how we rolled the cables and how I don't want to say
The details.
It was all in the details, and really appreciated that. So that's when we had conversations, had lunch, and realized that I was planning to start a business, a DJ business with one of my partners, but my partner passed away. And so we had everything going. And when he heard that, that's when like, hey, we're actually thinking of this. And that's when that conversation started. And from then on, it's a great relationship and a great team that we have. And I wouldn't change a thing.
I'm so excited. Like, I actually have a wedding in Vegas next week. Super last minute.
I did not know that. I didn't know it was that soon.
Yeah. So a little quick story. This is like a classic COVID wedding story, but this particular couple is getting married next Saturday. They're getting married at the Wynn. That's all I'll say for privacy reasons. But they originally were booked here in Chicago at a hotel, and it was for April, like end of April. And so COVID hit in March. We pushed it to November. So for those watching, we actually advised all of our 2020 couples to move to next year in 2021 because we didn't know what the virus would be looking like and how numbers would be and what the situation would be. But understandably so, not everyone wanted to move fully into 2021. We are hoping, like fingers crossed, that November might be okay. So we moved to November here in Chicago. And then I want to say like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, it was announced that we could not have groups gather more than 25 people getting together. So we were nervous about moving forward with that because like we actually scaled down. I'm not a great storyteller, but basically we decided to push their big November wedding to December of next year at the hotel, and then still have a small like dinner and actual ceremony on their original wedding date. But then they said that only restaurants that had outdoor seating could host guests of up to 25 people. So this particular venue could host. So shout out to Gibson's Italia for being so amazing here in Chicago. They have a rooftop that's enclosed and heated, but because they have doors going to the outside, they have like a whole balcony and everything. It's considered to be outdoors. So we were technically able to move forward with 25 people. It's just we were so nervous of like, what if regulations change like the week of the wedding and you can only have 10 people? So they came to me and they're like, you know what, they're like, we know you have an office in Vegas. We want to elope. Can you help us? And I was like, I can. And now I have an excuse to go to Las Vegas. So, because we're trying to limit travel unless
Vegas
it's like necessary.
Package, right?
Yeah, no, seriously. We really need to promote that. And I know that we've talked about that amongst our team, but not just to Chicago couples eloping to Las Vegas, but like a lot of our viewers and our clients are in New York or Florida, Miami. So depending on where you are, like, please hit us up. We can help you elope to Vegas. It's a fun option and easy, honestly, if you work with us. little plug. But
Well, I also wanted to ask, since it started with how I got into mode and you were wedding planning, how did mode come into the picture with you?
yeah, so I was working for a wedding planning company here in Chicago, exclusively doing weddings. And then I know one of the mode owners from when I lived in New York. So we got this huge corporate client that we work with nationwide, and they were basically wanting more people on the team to help with that. So I was approached to help with the corporate client, which is interesting because I've done a few random corporate jobs, kind of like one-offs, pretty cool jobs. I helped with America's Cup, which is a huge sailing race here in Chicago. I helped with the New York City Hot Sauce Expo a couple of years. I have done things other than weddings. It just wasn't like my main focus. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. It's not a conflict of interest, right? If I'm working with mode for a corporate client and then working for another company for wedding planning, there's no conflict of interest there. But after a certain amount of time, I felt like my time was being split. So even though there wasn't a conflict of interest with clients and sales and stuff, I just felt like I was being torn. It's like, I just felt like I was being unfair to the other company. So I just moved everything over to mode. And now I have a full wedding planning division.
Which is great.
Awesome. So, yeah.
I'm going to keep going with some of these questions.
Sure. And I'm going to ask them right back, just so you know. So get ready. Don't ask me anything you don't want to be asked.
Yeah, so I'm going to.
No one likes getting their finger
here as well. And we could probably talk for longer than an hour just on this alone.
Sure.
But for future wedding planners, and in my case, for future DJs, what are some wedding planning or DJ tips that we can give them?
To actual planners or DJs?
If I want to become a wedding planner myself, what are some of the tips that you would give that person?
I think this tip actually applies to any job in any field, but I would say be willing to be humble and just get your foot in the door and learn. And what I mean by that is, like, I know we all have a certain amount of money we want to make at the end of the day eventually, but I would say grasp onto opportunities that basically create your own opportunities. Because with wedding planning, every now and then I might have seen a company, actually not really. I feel like with wedding planning, if we need help, we're not necessarily going to do a job posting. Like as we grow, we've hired people through word of mouth of people that we can trust and who have experience. We have been approached, and other companies can probably test this too. There are people who email us all the time saying, I would love a job. And you know what? We've actually had at least one person I know from our team. Shout out to Gianna. She cold emailed us. She did her research. She was researching event planning companies and wedding planning companies in Chicago. And I don't even remember, something about the email, and read her resume. And of course we interviewed her and we clicked, but you have to really be proactive. Like I said, when I was living in New York, I emailed like 20 people and cold called, and I didn't hear from anyone for like a month. But I knew that was the field that I wanted to explore. So I waited. I was working like a bartending job or something. I was working a bartending job. I remember I hadn't heard from anyone that I applied for. And like a month went by and I was behind the bar. It was like happy hour in Chelsea and New York City. And I'd been working at the bar for a couple of years. And it was just one of those bars that was open till 4 a.m. And I just was like over it because I was tired. Anyways, I get a call and I answered. Like I was straight up standing behind the bar, which I should probably be fired for. But I just take out my cell phone. I saw and I just answered. And I like stepped away from all of my customers and I went, they had like a side room. I love how I'm doing this. This is not how you answer a phone also. I took improv comedy, total tangent, but I took improv comedy for a couple of years and I performed actually for a couple of years in New York. And I remember like, this is not a phone. This is a cell phone. Anyways, I went behind the curtain and I just, so like customers couldn't see me. And I was like, hi, this is Lindsay. And they're like, oh yeah, you applied for a job like a month ago and we've just been so busy. We're just now getting started. Can you start tomorrow? And I was like, absolutely. Like, I had to get someone to cover my shift, but you have to like seize any opportunity like that comes your way, / you have to really create opportunities. So how about you, like recommendations for DJs who want to specifically go into weddings and work for a company?
Well, there's a lot of referrals, but my main tip is to listen. Just listen, let them talk, hear what they have to say, especially
if you're interviewing, you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're interviewing other DJs. Let them know that you're listening to them, and repeat what they say so exactly you guys are on the same page on their vision of that perfect wedding. It's not necessarily all about the music, but everything from what they expect from a DJ, what they love and hate about from DJs from the past, and what they experienced from past weddings. Do they want a DJ who just wants to really get everybody dance, or they want a DJ to be more of a master of ceremonies? So,
you're talking about getting like booking the client.
Yes, but as far
I came in getting DJs like working with a company like us.
Yeah, like us, like.
But same thing. You have to hear like what the employer is wanting out of
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing too with that too. So my main tip is definitely listen to everything. And in this case, as far as DJing, trying to get into it, listen to other DJs. See what's really good, and take the experience that you have with listening to these DJs and see what they had to offer. Were they great at speaking? Then you have to practice on that. You practice in front of a mirror. It took, like I say, 2 or 3 weddings till I kind of got more comfortable that I didn't care anymore. They don't know me. I'm more nervous when I actually know the people that's actually there. I can speak in front of strangers, but if I see a couple friends, I might be a little more nervous. But after doing weddings for so long, I'm not ashamed anymore, or shy at all.
Well, you're confident in yourself because you know what
I don't
you
know
do.
Confidence, or I don't care. I don't give.
Let's just say it's confidence.
Yeah. So I mean, it does take.
Because I know you do care. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, of course.
Like you care so much. Yeah.
And that's when they know that you're not necessarily confident, but you don't have to try to be someone that you're not. Because people can read that when you're on a microphone. Yeah, I think that would be the best tip I have. For at least those days.
Yeah. And what about DJs that are trying to like sync up with a company? Like what if they're DJing at nightclubs and they want to transition into DJing a private event? Or working for a company like ours that does like retail store events? And how do they do you recommend them calling or emailing us? Not us or other companies, but yeah.
What I've seen from other DJs is just like, when you do a wedding at a venue, get to know the staff, get to know the sales team, get to know the coordinator. And if they liked how you worked that evening, just get their number back and we don't want to be too aggressive. Just let them know who you are. And then just go get back to them and email them. Hey, remember we worked together last year if you're looking for any DJs. That's usually the first conversation that I usually have with and once you start building relationships and they start seeing you over and over again, they see how great you actually work compared to the DJs that you've worked in the past. Those referrals with venues are great.
Yeah. What trends are you seeing? It's hard because 2020 was so crazy. So trends are probably due to COVID. Have you seen what wedding trends have you seen? I could talk about ones I've seen too.
For me, it's just it's the announcements that I have to make. I actually have to let them know, just reminders of wearing your masks. I did a wedding last week, and the venue told me to remind the guests to wear their masks. But I had a full dance floor, about 50-50 were wearing masks. The other 50% weren't. But I didn't point out to the guests who were dancing. I pointed out the guests who were standing around. I just mentioned, like, just a reminder, if you're not in your seats, but you're walking around, just a reminder that you're to wear your masks. But I was really mentioning it to the dance floor. So I was really, really careful not to hurt anybody's feelings. But at the same time, I'm like, don't hurt mine. Wear your mask. Be safe out there.
Yeah, I'm wondering, oh man, I just keep thinking about the future of, and I know everyone's thinking about the future, but like at what point, okay, so here's a question. In Chicago, we are not permitted to have dance floors right now. Well, we can't even have more than 25 people gather. So I'm just like thinking about the future of like, will we ever get there again? We will, I know. It's just like, do you ever think about that? It's like a constant thing in my head.
With what? With
screenshot that. 2020 COVID face emoji.
Like, is there any difference with you as a wedding planner as far as maybe the vendors that you work with? Having all the vendors work together to be on the same page and trying to make sure that we're trying to business sense. We don't want we're just following city guidelines, CDC guidelines, let them know that we're trying to make everything safe, especially in Chicago. Are you available to have any events in Chicago at this time?
We can, and it's okay. I will say, and I tend to vent about this a lot. So if you heard me vent about this before, I apologize. But as a planner, COVID has made things so, I don't want to say stressful. First, I feel bad for the couples, and I'm putting lotion on. Sorry if you see me like moving my arms around because I flew and I just feel like I'm so dry, and Chicago's super dry. But from a planning perspective, COVID has really created a lot of extra work for us. I would imagine that all wedding vendors can attest to this, even if it's as minor as changing a contract. But, you know, the minute a couple decides to postpone a wedding, you have to talk about the details. So what does that look like? Usually a new contract, of course, to secure the new date. You have to talk about whether or not you're going to be charging additional fees for that. You have to move staff around. You have to, from a DJ standpoint, change equipment. We also have photo booths. Mode has photo booths, so little plug there. But you have to make a lot of changes internally. And then from a wedding planning perspective, it's like you have to make sure that all of the vendors are doing this. So making sure you're getting all new contracts from everyone and make sure that everyone's on the same page. And then, like, for example, this one couple went from April to November to December of next year, but they had a smaller gathering in November still. So then you're trying to figure out, okay, you're contracted for this amount of floral. Now we're going to split it in between 2 dates. You know, like, are they going to do their ceremony twice? Or are they going to do their ceremony now? Or are they going to do it later? It's just like, so you're kind of like, I don't want to say replanning a wedding, but kind of. Because even if you're trying to like copy and paste a wedding from one date to another, it takes work to get there. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So it's funny because like I've vented to you and other members of our team, but like, so, you know, every now and then the owners, which I totally get, but the owners like, now is the time, now it's slow. Now we're slower than normal because we're not executing weddings. So it's time to focus on the business of like growing the company. And I'm like, I'm still busy. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm still like, yes, it's slow in the way that we're not executing weddings, but I know other wedding planners and other vendors can testify to this of like, yes, it's slow in that we're not executing weddings, but it's busy and trying to make all of these changes and help our couples find solutions. Like our company, I'm so proud of Mode. I've been proud of Mode since forever, since I started working with Mode. I was impressed already with what Mode Events has been doing, and now it just builds upon over and over again. But we were already doing virtual elements, right? Like we have all the gear. We've been doing live streaming. And then COVID hits and it's like a need. Before, I don't know, it was a need that existed before, but now it's like anyone can add on live stream for weddings. I mean, obviously we're talking about weddings specifically because
as far as live streaming weddings, are these micro weddings, and you've seen this already. So
our team is just doing so good at pivoting. I hate that word, but we are. It's just I'm
being
thankful.
Prepared. Being prepared for any situation and providing solutions, and that's who we are as a team.
Providing solutions, man. We should. Do we have that on our website? We should. That is it. Listening and providing solutions. Like 2020 is the year of solutions, and 2021 will continue to be that. I mean, you're always providing solutions as an event planner, but
and just be able to execute it by paying attention to the details, and that goes definitely with your wedding planning. But as simple as us DJs, it may just. I mean, there's always a misconception on what a DJ actually does, right? Oh, I'll just be behind the DJ booth and play music.
Yeah, like pressing buttons. Yeah. Well, what? Just No, if you really want that, just put a playlist together.
Yeah.
And save your money. Like, no. You want someone guiding and running the show. Well, you can tell me why hire a wedding DJ, Sheridan?
Well, that's the whole thing, and I can even give you my spiel that I tell a lot of my clients right from the.
I'm like, sell me. I don't know if you can see me.
Just like I said, there's always a misconception of what a DJ does. So, and right away, and I'm like, so the first conversation we're going to have has nothing to do with music. And they're like, what? And they're like, what's going on? Because no, because I'm going to do a lot more than that. So the questions I'm going to be asking you is more information so I can make your wedding run a lot smoother, because I will be the one managing and speaking on the microphone, providing all the information to your guests. If I don't have the correct information and all your vendors aren't on the same page, and I said, we're going to start the speeches, but your photographer's using the restroom, he's going to get blamed. I'm going to get blamed. And everyone's just going to be on a standstill waiting. So I'm that.
And we've all seen that happen, unfortunately.
So I'm that DJ that looks for the photographers. Are they in the room? Are they ready? Do they need to change their film? Do they need to change some lighting? Are the people who are speaking in the room? Because the last thing you want to find out is dad wasn't even in the room at all yet.
That's happened to me before. Announcement has been made in the usually it's the dad of someone and they're out smoking.
Yeah, so
or in the bathroom.
And nothing against wedding planners, even though the wedding planners tell me to go, I'm actually looking at, okay, are those people in the room?
Yeah.
And we can't start yet because we don't have our photographer here. Right. So
what's funny is you and I haven't worked a wedding together. We've worked corporate events together.
I would hope, Lindsay.
But I do check. I check the room.
Yeah,
because you make a mistake once.
Yes, but see, if we're all having that same mindset, everything would run a lot smoother. And the more we work with each other, the more you will look after each other. Because with all the vendors, everyone works together, and you might forget something, but your photographer says, "Oh, wait a second, Dad's not here yet." I'm like, "Thank you for saving me. I forgot about that," or vice versa. Yeah. So, with venues that I've worked with, where we are part of the package, we are a great team together, and it's always nice to work with vendors you worked with before in the past.
Yeah.
And I also compliment a lot of our couples for choosing their vendors, especially if I've worked with them in the past and they're great to work with. And that's just being honest. So, yeah, that's one thing about my consultation. I let them know it's not about music first. I'm finding out, is it a buffet? If it's plated, do you have a guest book or guest sign-in of some sort? Do you want to have photos taken during the ceremony? Choose a seat, not a side. All these are questions that I ask. And they're like, wow, there's nothing about music yet, huh? And I'm like, yeah, but is it a hosted bar? Is it cash bar? I'm like, do you have a photo booth? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to encourage everybody to take that. So by the time on their wedding day, all that information, all those questions that I've already asked, I'm already making those announcements.
Right. You're locked and loaded. Yeah. random question, but is there a venue or are there venues that you want to give a shout out to, or any vendors you want to give a shout out to and promote them in Vegas?
Definitely, there's a lot here in Vegas, and of course, where I work at currently, Wedgewood Weddings. They are located on Stallion Mountain Golf Course here in Las Vegas. They're a great venue where it's you could have a package that has all their vendors that they've worked with, and I will be there as well. So if you book at a Wedgewood wedding, you automatically have an option to request for me as your DJ.
Are we a preferred vendor there, or are we exclusive?
We're exclusive to their package. So if they have
cool.
packages there
Yeah.
where you can have, I mean, you could change your DJ, you could change your photographer, you could change the cake and everything else, how you want to customize it. But when they see the price of the full package, it's really hard to say no. And when you
Yeah.
see the DJ equipment that's already, and we are lucky enough to keep our DJ equipment there, it's hard to say no to it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
of course,
after-
our reviews
yeah.
show definitely willing to take the chance of DJs, unless they have a personal DJ that they would want to bring in. And I can attest to, out of 200 weddings we do a year, it's probably less than 5 to 10 times that we've ever have somebody outside to DJ. So we've been really lucky
That's
with
good.
that. But then we
Yeah.
also just want to do the best job, and we genuinely love doing weddings.
Well, as a planner, I used to really, I don't know how to word it, like get bitter or something, or not understand why venues would have exclusive vendors. Like not let it, because as a planner, I'm like, we're limited. Like, what if I don't like that caterer? What if I don't like that DJ? What if I don't like this lighting company? But I've learned my lesson, because ultimately it's the venue's reputation as well. The venues want their couples to be happy. So they're not going to book a garbage person. And after a while, I learned that these vendors are working with this particular venue over and over and over and over, so they know it like the back of their hand. So they have all the equipment they need, whether it's catering or DJ. Like they know how much time they need to set up, so they're never running late. Like I understand now. When I first started wedding planning, I was kind of like thinking that there was like inside deals, because here in Chicago, there are venues that you have to pay to get on the catering list. This is like inside gossip or whatever. But I think you have to pay, or they're guaranteed a certain amount of business or something like that. But I don't know if that's still the case, but I like 3 or 4 years ago, I learned that some venues, that's how they work. And it's like, I would be like frustrated with that, but ultimately it's worth that cost. It's worth paying that higher price with a caterer that works over and over and over at this venue, or any vendor. I said caterer, but DJ,
and we see it happen a lot at other venues too as well. And I've seen a lot of venues I've worked with outside that don't have like more of an customization as far as how they want their vendors or their preferred vendors. And if they give me a call to do their venue and they see me, they're like, wow, why aren't you on our preferred vendor list?
You're like, I can be now.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're almost locked in. They're almost committed to that vendor too.
Mm-hmm.
But
those contracts can be renewed, though. I think it's only like, don't quote me on this at all, but I feel like they revisit their list every year. Venues do.
Right.
So
how about
what are your?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask. Aside from Wedgewood, I know that like you don't want to like promote only.
Oh, there's so many. There's
other venues,
Revere, golf course.
Wondering like who else do you like to work with?
Well, I love working with photographers that I've worked with in the past. The only reason why I do it, I appreciate the photographers, and I think they're one of the most important vendors in a wedding.
My boyfriend's a photographer, a wedding photographer, and yes. Well,
So
okay,
if
not
you
to
heard that,
sidetrack.
shout out.
I've heard the spiel because I've heard him on sales calls, and obviously I value wedding photographers already as a wedding planner. I see this, but something that he says, which I totally get, he's like, I'm with you more than anyone else on your wedding day. And at first I'm like, as a wedding planner, I'm like, I'm the most important. Like every vendor thinks that they're the most important. Like DJ, you think you're the most important because you're like running the show, you know. As a planner, I'm like orchestrating the show. But from his perspective, like you really have to like your wedding photographer because they're with you physically more than any other person that day. As the wedding planner, I'm on site, like making sure all the vendors are doing their job and everything looks great. I'll check in on the couple. I'll check in with the other vendors to make sure that they have eyes on the couple and whatnot. But the photographer is literally like as they're getting into their dress, as they're putting their tie on.
Yeah, I
like,
believe they have
beginning to end. It's so
besides
intimate.
wedding planners, I think they have the closest relationship to the couple.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Well, day of. Yeah.
Especially, yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I love working with photographers that I've worked with in the past because we know that I know that they're going to be there on time. I know what they're going to be doing. I know what they're going to, I don't have to help them out when I've worked with like friends who are the photographers for the day and they have no idea when the wedding cake happens and what they need to do. So I'm guiding
they're
them.
friends. Yeah. Oh,
so I've seen that happen as well. But also with any vendor, like I feel as the DJ that we tend to save the night if anything goes bad. So if the cake goes bad, if the photographer is a jerk, or if the wedding planner had an argument, we tend to save the day to make sure it's still fun and the whole event. And sometimes they forget that. So I've seen venues where they didn't like the food, or they didn't like the bartender, how he was, his attitude or his personality. And I had wedding coordinators planning, oh my gosh, this couple's like really hard to work with. I'm like, okay, I had no problem though, but I was able to have them.
Yeah, but you have the fun job. Like, not saying that
that's
other
why
jobs are
I feel like as
I always get jealous.
We could save those tough couples or those, that we work with. So it is, it could mean a lot if their wedding the DJ was terrible or they didn't have a great time at all. Everything that they had issues with is heightened.
Yeah.
Right. So if the cake fell and we just had a bad night as DJs and we didn't get them engaged to dance or have a good time, that cake will just be remembered throughout the whole evening. And we try to forget that from just having a great time.
What are I was thinking of the different ways that all the wedding vendors can mess things up. The only things I just want to say a couple of things that I've seen as a DJ messing up, and then I'm curious if you've seen anything else, but not with our company. I will note that. But when I was a wedding planner with another company and seeing a bunch of DJs, actually I still have couples every now and then they'll hire us for wedding planning after they've booked everything else. Anyways, I've seen DJs announce the wrong name. And I've seen, and then playing the wrong songs for first dances and introductions. That's the ways that I've seen DJs mess up. And it's oh, especially the name pronouncing. What?
Yes. So
I know it's not nerves. It's they didn't ask. They didn't write it down phonetically or something. It was crazy.
And if you're honest with the couple and say, I'm having a hard time, I apologize if I'm going to butcher your name. I'm going to try my best. And if you're being honest that way, and they'll let you know.
Ask in advance and write it down.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask. It's better to ask in advance and write it down for your own memory than just wing it day of. Are you kidding me?
And that's all due to consultation. That's part of my whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to talk about music right now. And the last day I let them hear their first dance song. I go, is this the song? Is this the songs that you want? Is it the right version?
Yes. There's 20 versions of everything.
Yeah.
So it's important to
I
get the
make
right
sure I
one.
play that. There's so many covers out there that you could hear on YouTube from the same artist. So just make sure you play the right version of the songs. Let them hear it.
Uh-oh, wifey's doing a shout out.
Yes, couplezillas.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't believe.
Oh, I thought she was saying like I just totally read that the wrong way. I was thinking couplezilla was like couples, like her and you, but couplezilla like bridezilla and groomzilla. Oh my gosh, sorry. I was like, oh, she's doing a shout out for you. Yeah.
And
opposite.
Have you ever met a bride or a groom where I had a wedding planner tell me, okay, this is a bridezilla. Here you go. Talk to her. You're going to be the DJ. And so I got the heads up on that, but I never had that. I never had that idea that they were when I talked to them. So like, I go, I don't know where you got that from. I guess your conversation might have been different. Have you ever had that before where some people say that they were bridezillas, but you never had that idea, or you knew they were?
So as a planner, I've definitely been recommended by venues and vendors and whatnot. But they've never said that there was a bridezilla. I've had like 2 people in the past 6-7 years that I didn't fully vibe with. But when I say that, it's like I vibed with the bride, but maybe not the groom, or I vibed with the groom and not the bride. And literally like 2 out of everyone I've ever worked with. And I think when that happened, it was just, I don't want to say personality is not matching, because I think it's just like the wedding day is so important. And so because people care, they get anxious and nervous about it. And as much as I can, like my full job, I truly feel as a wedding planner, my job is to take as much stress off as possible. And like in terms of the planning, take as much stress off of them as possible during the planning process. But for executing, it's like creating the wedding of their dreams, right? So you sell the like, I'm going to create the wedding of your dreams. But in actuality, the more important part to me is the year leading up to it. You know what I mean? Like, yes.
Have you ever had a bride tell you that she's hard to work with and I'm a bridezilla?
Yes. So I'm just smiling because they're so sweet. So if they're telling you I'm a bridezilla, you know, they think, oh, I'm type A. They don't say I'm a bridezilla, but I've had so many people say I'm really type A. I like to be organized. And that's during the consultation process. So when we speak with our couples before booking, it's like an interview between both of us. I interview them, they interview me to make sure that we're matched. Because I explain to them, this is such an intimate part of your life, the planning, not even just the wedding, but the planning process is so intimate, it's going to raise questions that you have never even thought about. What's important to you as a couple? What's important to you regarding your family? Like, yes, it's a big party. Usually, hopefully, your wedding is a big celebration. But questions come up like, I'll say, even like introducing parents into the room, or introductions into the room. After cocktail hour, all the guests are seated and we announce the couple into the room. I always say, do you want to be just the 2 of you announced? And this is very telling. And it's not, when I say this, it's not judging anyone's response. But I ask couples, do you want it to be just the 2 of you announced into the room? Do you want your wedding party announced as well? Do you want your parents announced? And how they respond kind of reflects sometimes, I shouldn't say always, but reflects sometimes their relationship with their family, how they respond. If they're like, oh, you don't need to announce my parents. If they're like,
from
meh.
a teacher standpoint, when we do those grand entrances, my conversations with them are, who are the parents and how are the relationship? Are they divorced? Are they separated? I want to make sure that I don't offend anybody. So I let them know. The last thing you want a DJ to say.
And who's paying? I straight up ask if they're paying too. Like, because these couples don't know and they need guidance. And so I ask, do you want it just to be the 2 of you, wedding party, parents? And they say that usually they'll say, oh, I didn't think about that, which is fine. Why should they? They've never been married before. but that's 99.9% of the time. They're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. It's like, that's fine. We're talking through it now. We don't have to make a decision now. There's no right or wrong answer. But then I will say, this is a personal question, but are your parents contributing financially? If so, it might be nice to say their name. They don't necessarily have to enter. They can just be seated at the table and they wave. A lot of what we do as a DJ and a wedding planner and any wedding vendor is educate the couples because usually they haven't been married before. Have you ever had any second weddings? People who've been married before?
Coming up. Renewal.
Oh, I guess I just mean like if the bride or the groom has been married to someone else previously.
Oh yeah, yeah. Their second marriage, or I think the most was my third or fourth.
Yeah.
But
what's the
first.
vow renewal? Tell me about that. Like, what are the details on that?
It's so easy. It's just introductions and a first dance, and it's a party. They're just that's it. It's that simple.
How many years has it been?
She told me 18. They were 18 when they got married, and 30 years, 40. Yep.
Oh my gosh, do you know if they had a wedding, like for their original wedding date? Was it just a ceremony, or do you know?
I do know that. I don't know their exact wedding date or if it's an anniversary, but I did ask them like, was this your first dance song that you danced when you first got married? It goes, oh my gosh, we didn't even think about that. They have a new song, that's why. So we're gonna surprise the groom to play their original first dance song as the first song for dinner.
I hope you're not watching, Sheridan.
I didn't mention any names, but it's gonna be really funny that.
Okay.
And I'm almost scared, but at the same time, she wants to see if he remembers.
Make sure they don't watch this.
Yeah, but I didn't mention the song. I know.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of cute that they're willing to do that. But he said he's really fun. He just wants to have a great time and I think their sons are going to be there. So yeah, it's pretty much dinner and dance.
Aww, that's nice.
So a little more DJing for me that evening.
That's nice. I have not done a vow renewal. I know that's something that Mode has done. I personally haven't done that. I think that'd be nice. I mean, it's all surrounding love, which I love. I love love. Did I tell you about the website welovelove.com?
No, I never heard about that. What website is that?
The website is welovelove.com, and if you go to the website, it's a construction worker. It says like under construction because I just love love, and ilovelove.com was like, oh
it's
my
I
gosh.
Or we?
Welovelove.com.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Is there a construction worker on it?
No, it just says can't find anything about it.
What? Now I have to go on my computer and see. I don't know. I wanted to buy ilovelove.com and it was like $5,000 or something. And I was like, that's rude. Oh, it says we're having trouble finding that site. That's bad. I hope I still own it.
But other than that, I know we just have a couple more minutes here.
Yeah.
I told you, I know that we talk already almost every Wednesdays this past year, or maybe longer. Has it been longer this past year? But ever since
you and I talk about weddings all the time. Yeah.
But is there anything? How do you want to end this? Is there anything?
Oh well, let's talk about next week. So next week we're having Colin from. He's based in Chicago. He's a stationery designer. He owns Pulpit Ink. So shout out to Colin. This is like an anomaly for this time. So we're going to move our time or start time back to 5 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. But we'll have Colin on. And then the next week is Thanksgiving week. And I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not we do a broadcast. I was going to take the week off. I thought we should take the week off, but we'll see. So we'll update you guys on that.
That's right. Just follow us on our Instagram, on our Facebook, and even here on Twitch as well. You can see more videos on YouTube. So make sure you tune in for that. Hit us up at any time on our website. Do I have our website on here? I don't.
Well, it is mode-events.
You doing it right now?
No, I'm not. I'm just verbalizing it. Mode-event.com. And or you can search us, Weddingzilla Mode. There you go.
There you go.
But there's like a weddings tab. So hopefully you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to always chat here in the room, or I love that we still have viewers till the end. Just saying.
Yeah,
I just like seeing that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. But especially since we changed the time last minute. But so call in next week. We might take a week off for Thanksgiving. We'll update you. And then the following week we have a calligrapher. She does great signage, custom signs.
I don't want to miss that. That's awesome.
Well, it's cool. Oh my God. Her name's Amanda, and she'll be on the following week, December 2nd.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait for next week to see Colin. And other than that, it is Veterans Day, so happy Veterans Day to all our veterans.
I know. I should have led with that. I'm sorry. I was able to watch on the news. They were having, I don't know what it's called actually, but the programming where they're like in Washington, D.C. and they're at the grave sites, and it's like, ugh, I'm good. I'm not going to cry, but it's like.
And thank you to everyone out there sticking crazy. I see you.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, DJ Chris Gutt, she's here listening in. I appreciate you guys. Other than that, thanks everyone. Visit us here again next week. Lindsay, you want to sign off? I'll sign off with you.
Sure, yeah. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.